everyone. Welcome to the Supply Chain Talk. I'm Ana Maria Velica, and I'm your host today. Our episode is Proactive Leadership for the Next Generation of Supply Chain Innovators, a leadership masterclass, the way I like to call it. I have great leaders, global, international leaders, who have developed and mentored generations of leaders. So stay tuned and please engage with us. As you know, this is a live podcast, which is streamed on two platforms, on the website, the Business Reporter website, and on LinkedIn. So welcome and thank you for joining us today. Make sure you engage with us. If you dial in from the Business Reporter website, make sure that you open the chat box to engage in real time with my guests. And if you are on LinkedIn, our producer will, in real time, will select your questions and will direct those to my guests. As you know, the best question, comment, compliment will be rewarded with a Supply Chain Talk mug, which will be couriered by my colleagues at Business Reporter. I would like now to invite on our virtual stage my first guest, Patrick Strauss, CEO and founder at tomorrowleaders.today. Welcome to the Supply Chain Talk, Patrick.
Thank you, Ana Maria. Great pleasure to be back again.
It's good to have you back. A few words about Patrick. Patrick is globally recognized authority in digital twins, in digital transformation, emerging technologies, and executive innovation strategy. Patrick has over 30 years of cross-industry experience and has delivered intelligent, future-ready solutions across some of the world's most complex supply chains, holding roles at Global Logic and Hitachi, DXC, IBM, and British Telecom. He currently serves as head tutor and assessor in AI, innovation, and growth leadership at Oxford School. My second panelist is a first on our show, Vlad Grădinăriu, Director of Operations at Green Apples. Vlad, could you please switch on your camera and mic?
Hi, Anna. Hello, everyone.
It's good to have you here, Vlad. Vlad serves as Director of Operations at Green Apples, guiding leaders on how to build proactive, resilient, and sustainable supply chains. Vlad's mission is to show that leadership in procurement can be both strategic and responsible, delivering lower emissions, lower costs, and stronger operations. Beyond his professional work, Vlad is a fresh, proud dad, inspired by his daughter, reminding him why creating a more responsible future actually matters. Third guest, last but not least, Mike Loquercio, Senior Manager, Supply Chain Technology at Coca-Cola.
Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you, Ana Maria.
It's good to have you here again, Mike. A few words about Mike. Mike supports technology development and the roadmap to Industry 4.0. Mike has been lucky enough to attend 3 Summer Olympic Games in Barcelona, London, and Paris. That's a blessing, Mike.
Thank you. Welcome.
So let's get into our news item. As you know, this is for us a privilege to share with you, the audience, a news item on leadership. And for today, we chose the news item called AI's biggest supply chain shortage is people. And just before I invite for the take-ons and comments, I would like to give you just a few headlines. Companies can spend a lot of investment on data, and can invest in AI, but if they don't have the right knowledge, the right expertise, and the right trained staff, this is a waste. The news item also talks about the AI skills gap, which is brought by PricewaterhouseCoopers, a global analysis which is starker, mentioning that workers with AI skills command an average of 56% wage premium across industries. So the more skilled you are in the AI, the better your wage, your remuneration. But companies, they really need to train their staff. They really need to make sure that once they do investments in AI, they bring people along. I would like first to invite you, Patrick, on what do you think? What's your take on the news item?
Yeah, it was not a surprise to me to read it. I think it was more a reaffirmation of what I've certainly seen over the last few years. I mean, let's be really clear, Anna Maria. We have the very same cycle of skills gaps and technology gaps, you know, every time a new technology comes on. So AI is nothing new. But based on my experience, and I'm a great advocate, you know, kind of working with some great academics out there, I think one of the gaps that I certainly see for some of our absolutely fantastic academic organizations that we have out there is to kind of really start building on that skills gap early. And one of those things that I see constantly missing is, especially when we talk about supply chain related executive or master courses and degrees, is the lack of leadership. Very clear understanding, not technology as such, but actually really understanding how to navigate those disrupting forces that, you know, every organization nowadays is facing. And skills gaps is one of those kind of major kind of disruptions really that will hit you at some point, even if you kind of, you know, don't assume it's not hitting you. So for me, the article was a kind of a reaffirmation of what I've seen.
Thank you, Patrick. What's your take on Vlad?
Well, to build up on Patrick's point, every technological advancement in and of itself will create a skill gap in the market, and we're seeing that. And the difference here is how businesses go about it. Do you hire? Do you work on training? So that goes into the leadership piece that you, Patrick, mentioned. Do you work hard on bringing up your teams to get to the level of skill that is required to perform those activities effectively for the business?
Thank you, Vlad. And Mike at Coca-Cola, what's your experience in regards to this news item?
Patrick and Vlad are spot on. Anytime new technology, there is a gap. I would ask anybody that's listening, if you're hiring folks, you know, the academics are trying to catch up. I do work for one of the universities here in the States, and that is a topic, I'm a capstone advisor, that is resonating with the dean. How do we prepare students to have the right skill set? And it's just not technology. Patrick's spot on. So much of this is understanding the business process and how do you apply the technology. That's how you win.
Perfect. Yes, Mike, indeed. And I would like us now to go into the main topic. And before we go there, I think I would like to bring the audience a starking statistic, which was brought by Mercer, a global consulting firm in HR. Building a strong leadership team is a priority for most companies. And still, 80% of organizations are struggling with a leadership talent shortage, making it challenging to find suitable candidates for higher level positions. 80% is a lot. If we think about all these companies, and I have worked for 3 major corporations in procurement and supply chain, and talent shortage, succession planning, talent pipeline has been always the most challenging leadership task. And when we look at our first topic, strategies for mentoring and skills building in emerging supply chain talent, I would like to invite you, Patrick, and from your consulting, advisory, academic experience, what are your examples in mentoring strategies to skill build supply chain talent?
So let me start off with something that maybe sounds a bit alien to many of our podcast listeners. I'm a firm believer that as a leader, you need to have what I call a leadership OS, an operating system. And it's very similar to your iPhone or Android phone. Our body is the hardware, kind of the outer shell. But inside, our brain, our knowledge and experience, our passion is what makes that OS, that operating system.
Mhm.
And your operating system, Anna Maria or Vlad or Mike, probably is slightly different to mine. But ultimately, in order to kind of be successful, we need to adjust. And for me, there's three key elements to kind of have a really good, strong leadership OS. And this is trust, clarity, and momentum. And this kind of makes you different from a good manager or leader to kind of an exceptional one if you don't embody all of those three qualities. And, you know, some of the examples that I've done with some of the people that I've coached and mentored over the years is actually really simple and straightforward. First and foremost, the trust and the clarity. You need to kind of demonstrate, why are we doing this? You know, kind of to the point that we've just done about the article. I think a lot of leaders just don't understand why to bring in certain technologies or why certain data is relevant. So that why question is really important, and that addresses the clarity point. The trust comes naturally, but the trust comes by you demonstrating those kind of qualities. And the momentum piece for me is very, very simple in the sense of say what you do what you say, first time, every time. Live and breathe that sort of kind of momentum, but also kind of look ahead in terms of how quickly or how slowly do you need to adjust. If you miss one of those qualities, then I think you're missing out on something. And it's probably kind of an ask for me, everybody to maybe reevaluate, is it trust, clarity, momentum? Is it one of those characteristics that they need to work on?
I love it. And I think when you mentor the next generation of talent and supply chain leadership, these are crucial values: trust, clarity, momentum. And I like momentum is quite unique. Vlad, what's your experience? You have worked across industries, and you are being mentored, and you have mentored a generation of supply chain leaders. What's your experience, examples on strategies for mentoring?
Absolutely, Anna. I will talk from personal experience because I had the privilege and the opportunity to start my career in procurement and supply chain early in my 20s. I was probably 21. And I was fortunate enough to have great leaders around me that gave me firsthand access to real hands-on experience. And that's really important. Access to real hands-on experience, not just theory. Subsequently, being put in front of making decisions for the business. That's really important to develop the future leaders of our industry. Yes, well, we need to put them in front of big decisions and trust them that they will do the right thing. And thirdly, feedback. Feedback is very important in developing talent and developing the next leaders. Constantly adjusting, constantly giving feedback to support them in their journey. And those are the three areas that I think are really, really important in developing talent and developing the next leaders of the business. And I will add the fourth one, which is curiosity, sparking curiosity, and supporting when the up and coming talent is curious, and rewarding them and providing them the information that they need.
I like this, Vlad, real hands-on experience, feedback. Feedback is a gift, timely manner, and curiosity to keep growing, to keep evolving. Mike, you have mentored and have developed generations of talent. Can you share with us and with our audience some of your secrets?
Well, I guess I was lucky enough. I'm an engineer by degree to start, and I've managed operations and business systems, but I migrated to supply chain. I just found it a fascinating field. If COVID taught us nothing, that we are a connected global supply chain, but yet it is not a fancy hot topic in academics. It's not where students graduating want to be. Your leaders then have to evolve and be mentored and understand it is a connected world. As simple as, and both Vlad and Pat have said this, Sometimes it's just about connected data and understanding your order to cash cycle and how can you improve your profitability by improving your supply chain. It's not as hard as people think. It's some basic, simple things, but you have to understand your upstream impact to your downstream impact and how are you connected. That's the one thing that when you look for a senior leader, someone who gets it and makes that your mission, vision, and values, you know that you are going to drive technology solutions that make sense.
I love it, Mike. It's so much goodness in your answer. And I think it's so important to lead by example when you mentor the next generation and to fully display all those values that the three of you have talked about: trust, clarity, momentum, real hands-on experience, roll up your sleeves, show your mentees that, also you are up for it, give and seek timely feedback. This is super important. And curiosity, be curious, to learn, to ask. Don't be afraid to ask questions because this show curiosity to make sure that you can be prepared for the next level where, let's be honest, supply chain as a function deals with so much uncertainty. So curiosity comes hands in hands with uncertainty. Be curious to understand why this has happened, why this black swan has happened. So it's super important. If we go into the second topic, which is leveraging technology and innovation to prepare the future leaders, and this is what the news item talked about. AI is now considered by some a threat, some other truly embrace it, and they make it like part of how they perform their jobs. So how do we leverage technology and innovation to prepare future leaders in supply chain? Patrick.
We shouldn't start with the question of what's the right technology, but what's the right problem we're trying to solve. I've unfortunately been in too many conversations where the conversation started with the technology. And don't get me wrong, it is important because it is kind of what is creating the hype. But I've seen it over and over again. This is where you're tripping yourself up. So, and I've worked with senior leaders, and I use the phrase chasing the shiny toy syndrome. Yeah. I want AI, I want X, Y, and Z in terms of technologies. And when I then ask the crucial question, why, it's the silence in the room. So if I have no clear business reason of why technology X, Y, and Z is relevant, let's not talk about technology. So for me, this is kind of the first one. Start with the problem. And then kind of you start kind of peeling the onion layers away to kind of say, okay, now I know what the problem is. What is the data that I currently have that supports me? And again, this is all of a sudden opening up another treasure trove of conversations. And, the majority of clients I have worked with, they're sitting on what I call data mountains. They're not data lakes anymore, they're data mountains. And they have been collecting data for many years. But again, if I ask the question, so what are you doing with the data? Again, there is utter silence in the room. So again, really understand the power that data can drive and deliver the insights. And I think, kind of what we're starting to see very much, those organizations that really thrived in the times of disruptions, they understood three things really well. They understood the data. They understood the value they could drive. They understood platforms. The platforms ultimately allow them to connect the data with each other's. And the last thing is visualization, creating these kind of enhanced experiences on the top of it. So really good examples such as Airbnb and Uber, kind of those sort of platform-based organizations that have kind of shot to stardom out of nothing. And, these are organizations that really understood how to embrace technology in the right way, but also to sort of kind of get the right skills, the right people, the right curiosity and passion around them to kind of build their businesses out.
Yes, that's a challenge, but also an opportunity
Correct.
to build the future leadership around technology, because technology is coming anyway. So, Vlad, what's your experience, examples on leveraging technology and innovation?
Well, Anna, I don't really think technology will replace supply chain leaders by any means. It's there to support and enhance the business, the organization, and the industry altogether. Um, and the way that is done is step by step. We see more often than not businesses trying to run before they can actually crawl and leading themselves into huge digital transformations when there's no need for that. To Patrick's point, it's an enabler and will support your business to get insight, but then it's still with us to turn insight into action. And that's the way I see it. Of course, AI and digital tools will be much more prevalent over the coming years, and they are going to become part of a procurement and a supply chain team. But again, I don't see them running end-to-end activities, but they're just an ally supporting the business with data, gathering data, reviewing data, invoicing, but strategy still remains in the leader's courts.
Thank you, Vlad. Really good take on for our audience. Mike.
Amazing comments.
Yes.
I would tell you that the world should start with, what's the use case? To Patrick's point, what's the business problem? And Patrick went through the 5 whys of lean. You know, you're sort of deconstructing what are you trying to solve. When technology doesn't work, it doesn't work for the end user. It could be the greatest AWS solution in the world. When it doesn't work for the end user, it doesn't work. So we believe in this use case approach. What are we trying to solve? Yeah, a lot of folks are concerned that AI is going to take someone's job. There's tremendous opportunities to be better, faster, smarter, more accurate, and insights to actions is a theme we embrace. You know, what do we want people to do given something? And we do it in our personal lives, right? We get all sorts of alerts and different things on our phones, and we take action. We want to transcend that behavior into the shop floor and operations and supply chain, but it's got to be correct. So this data foundation that you've heard both Vlad and Patrick talk about is so mission critical. If you don't get it right, you connect to something that doesn't give you the right answer. And then you say, technology doesn't work. No, it does work. You just have to have the right foundation.
You can blame technology. And I think the news item has touched on how important it is to leverage technology and innovation with the right skills, skilled workforce. And it talked about the advantage to innovative and skilled workforce is a workforce that knows when AI helps, how to wire it in a responsible manner, removing hallucinations, and how to keep it safe and measurable over time. So actually, it's us leading and who have created that intelligence. Yeah. So any more examples, Patrick? An example?
I wanted to add a little bit to kind of what Vlad and Mike said, and I know you're kind of a big advocate of statistics. So I've recently actually read in research that Deloitte has done that only 41% of work that we do creates value. Let me repeat that. Only 41% of the work that we do every day creates value. And it goes back to what I said earlier. That sits in that clarity OS bracket to kind of say, you know, you need to recognize not everything that you do as a leader is necessarily value adding. But also Gen AI technologies, and I think this was McKinsey who's done a report recently on that, only seems to boost productivity by about 5%, maybe cuts tasks by about 10%. So I think, you know, to what everybody else has said, never start focusing on technology first. Yeah, it's very tempting. You know, there's a lot of noise and hype around that. I get it. It is the easiest way to kind of say, I want one as well. But to Mike's point, if it has not got value, you might have got the best technology, the best things in sliced bread, but if nobody wants to eat it and buy it, what's the point? And I think this is a very, very simple equation that every future leader needs to embrace, to kind of really understand. If you want to get it right, start with some of those basic principles.
Yes. And do you agree, Vlad, that when we develop senior leadership, when we hire senior leadership, we need to make sure that they have that open mindset and they embrace technology as an enabler?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, technology, don't get me wrong, is here to stay, and it's a big part of the ecosystem. But we should not start with it. We start with the right systems and right processes, and from there we build our enablers, which can be, of course, technology driven. So absolutely, I agree with you, Anna.
Thank you. We have a question from Rebecca, Mike, and I would like you to reply to it. I will read it out. I find that a lot of leadership conversations focus on how we develop the next generation, but less on who we are developing them for. As global supply chain fragments localize and change, do you think the profile of a successful supply chain leader is actually changing as well? And what traits will matter most in the new changing landscape? Beautiful question, Rebecca.
So absolutely, it is changing. If you're not changing as an executive leader, and whether you're in supply chain or operations, the train's left. You're already chasing, or if you're in a race, you're 3 laps down in a race, kind of thing. There is a technology awareness component of being a future leader. You can't be afraid of it. You have to, I don't want to use the word embrace, but you have to understand how to support and apply. Where does it make sense? What problem am I solving? The piece that cascades down, as a leader, you're trying to build the best roster of talent in your organization. And somewhere in there, you now have to add this role of technology. And whether it's Vlad or myself or Patrick in our young age, you have to have people who think and understand and can come to you with creative solutions that say, hey, that problem, guess what? I think I know how to solve it, but I might need some technology, and I'm going to need some connected data. That's the curiosity that has to be in place for your leader and your organization for the future. Use the data to solve problems.
Use the data to solve problems. So this is crucial.
Can I add to this one, Anna Maria?
Of course, Patrick.
One of the things that I started to observe, and I'm not having a dig at Generation Alpha, Generation Beta, but I think the younger generation that is now moving into some of those potential leadership positions, there is a trend that there is an unwillingness to change, or kind of and not knowing how to change. I think there is a certain comfort level that seems to sort of kind of, in the early years of kind of being raised. And I think, if you look at sort of kind of, the boomers, kind of Generation X, Generation Y to a certain degree, kind of, we all kind of grown up with, kind of the post-World War kind of COVID and everything in between. And I think we've kind of learned to adapt. I think that adaptability, that change, requirement for change, is something that I think is missing a little bit in those kind of future leaders. And, to Mike's point, if you're not ready and willing to change, you will have to, if you want to succeed in this world going forward. And it doesn't matter if you're 25, 55, or 65, that change is imposed on us because of the external influences that we can very, very little control ourselves. So we might as well have to live with them. The question is how.
A growth mindset is a must to lead large teams, especially in C-suite rooms, in senior rooms, especially given the never ever changing geopolitical stages. So we need to hire and invest in those with the right attitude, with the right curiosity, mindset, and hunger for change, personally, professionally. So personal and professional development is a must, I think, to build that proactive leadership in supply chain. And before we go into the third topic, I read a beautiful book which really inspired me. I have led for 2 decades procurement and supply chain teams globally, locally. And this book, The Light We Carry by Michelle Obama, highlighted something which really resonated with me in terms of leadership, saying that in tough times, leadership means hope, not fear, because we need to stay as high as possible in times when it's very hard to do it. And her motto is when they go low, and we know, and we have all experienced at this table, low times. When they go low, we need to go high and lead from the heart. So I love this because resilience is, especially in supply chain and in procurement, is a must. You need to be resilient. You need to deliver very hard news to top leadership. And as a result, our leaders of today, the leaders of tomorrow, they really need to not be defensive, to understand how to deliver this and how to become resilient and stay high, not low. Cultivating resilience and ethical decision-making in next generation supply chain professionals. Patrick, what do you think? What's your view?
So, because I'm a big lover of statistics, so let me give you a couple more to kind of really phrase this part of the conversation. In the sort of mid-1920s, the lifespan of any company worldwide was round about 67 years. So let me repeat that again. 1920s lifespan of a company, about 67 years on average. 100 years later, mid-2010s, that has dramatically go down to 15 years. So what does that mean? It means something really profound and simple. So everybody on the podcast, really listen up. Your organization, and it doesn't matter if it's a one-man band or if you're the leader of 300,000 people globally, your organization will be fundamentally different in 15 years' time. In fact, that change probably is even less than 15 years. I will probably guess 10 years or less right now. What does that mean to you? You as that future leader, you need to start really thinking ahead that strategically to say, where is your business going to be in order to remain resilient and build that resilience? And I already hear what lots of people say, but say, Patrick, we can't look 5-10 years ahead, let alone, we don't even know what comes down the next quarter. I understand that. But there are organizations that are much more forward-thinking, building against resilience or being much more resilient as their business, and looking ahead, looking at the skills gap, looking at technology, kind of really embracing that kind of clarity and the momentum and the trust element and build forward. So be under no illusion, your business will change. The question is how quickly it will change. And the answer is you are on the driving seat in order to change the fortunes of it.
Exactly. And what do we do in order to make sure that you have the right leadership workforce prepared for the future? Vlad, yes, please.
Yeah, so Patrick, you mentioned the ability to change. And the ability to change is in and of itself being a resilient organization, continuing to exist regardless of the continuous and ever-changing situation that feed into your business. And I would say it's an old Italian say, everything must change so nothing changes. And it's a continuous challenging yourself to change to ensure that the business continues to exist over time. And that is paired with sustainability, having an ethical and a sustainable focus in the business, which is in and of itself the ability to continue to exist without compromising future generations. And having that strategy in mind and being part of the operations of the business, always thinking of the environment, thinking of the people, and thinking of the communities that your business is impacting. And supply chain and procurement are a big part of that. Procurement, supply chain touch businesses, touch different environments all the time. And that's
Beautiful.
essentially the way I see it. Yeah.
Everything changes and nothing changes. I really like that, Mike. Cultivating resilience and ethical decision making in next generation supply chain.
I think resilience is the buzzword right now in the industry.
Yes. Yeah.
And think about how did we get there? I think a lot of people forgot about what happened in COVID, right? Supply chains went back to the business they used to do, and the opportunity was to change. What did we learn from that, and how did we change? But what's driving resiliency? Cyber, right? Every week you're reading about someone, a threat actor, cyber assessment, whether it was AWS, go down the list. And all of a sudden senior leadership is going, well, what does that mean to me? And I have these systems and I have vendors that remote in and. Am I resilient enough in my network? And what cyber tools do we have? So it's driving change. You would hope in a perfect world that your senior leaders have this long-term vision. And we know in the public sector with stock prices, we are quarter to quarter in Wall Street earnings, and you got to report something. But you'll know you've got it right when your senior leader says, we're going to revisit the 5-year roadmap. And we're going to talk about where we are today and where we want to be. And out in the future, it could be, half year, year. But to have that vision has to be part of who your senior leader is for the future. Has to be.
Exactly. And I would like also to ask you something, because the third topic touch base on ethical decision making in supply chain, and we talk about the ESG. When you work as a senior leadership team in supply chain, you need to take decisions to make sure that you responsibly source, that your suppliers understand and are trained on modern slavery. And also the leaders of the companies are really displaying and practicing the business conduct. And we have seen big names in the summertime with big seniors being involved in scandals, in non-ethical behaviors, and the stock market going down. So I think we need to be very careful more than ever, given the volatility, the fast-paced decision-making. You need leaders to act fast, and this is resilience. Act fast, implement immediate decisions and actions in an ethical manner. Patrick, your take on this.
Yeah, I love everything that you said. I know, the key problem is, in order to make those fast ethical decisions, it's all predicated on having the right data and insights to do exactly that. And I would say, I kind of look at some of the organizations that I've worked with. I think there's big gaps. Yes, they're sitting on a lot of data, but they just don't know what to do with it and to drive those insights. So, but on the flip side, I have worked with organizations in order to exactly avoid those sort of kind of bad press and those ramifications. We all know what it's like, to have a product recall, which is a taboo subject in any organization. Yeah. But we all know if you produce items and products, they may go wrong at some point. And, kind of look at automotive industries. I remember with Toyota many years ago, they had 2 successive recalls, and it had such a hit on their business performance and their market share, from which they recovered very, very slowly. Many other organizations have basically had to close their company because of those kind of bad publicity. So working in an ethical way, especially with sustainability nowadays, you can't turn a blind eye on this one. But in order to kind of really show and demonstrate, it always comes back to data and what you're going to do with it, and how good is your data, and the decisions you drive. So for me, there is a kind of a constant back and forth, and that's what you need to get right.
Thank you, Patrick. And the data is important, but is data enough, Vlad, to make sure that you display, as a senior leader, you display ethical leadership?
Well, data is very important because if you cannot measure it, you can't manage it, and that is very important to make informed decisions. It's not just that, of course, and going to the previous point about not being quick enough in making decisions, it goes back to why our business is afraid to make decisions. Is probably there because they're afraid to fail, and I always say it in our projects when we implement something. I'd rather fail, but fail fast. I don't care. We just go back to square one and do it all over again. But as long as we try, we make quick decisions, and it goes back to my first point that we need to train the future mentors and the future leaders to make quick decisions. They need to be put in front of important decisions so that when it comes to being an actual leader, they can make those decisions very quickly.
I like the fail fast and learn quickly, and this is Google really champion fail fast. They have on Fridays. They gather people and they put forward failing examples and the lessons learned. And this is also something I championed in my years in supply chain lessons learned log, because you need to make sure that you don't repeat the same mistake. So this is crucial. Mike, any take on any thoughts on the ethical leadership piece?
Yeah, let me give you an interesting perspective on that. Ethics is a learned behavior. You're not born with being ethical or not. And if you look at the geopolitical structure today and the events today, there's numerous examples of unethical behavior, and people are not held accountable. You,
Yes.
as a senior leader, have to put a stake in the ground. You have to put a line that says, personal, religious, governmental, whatever it is, we don't care. Here's the ethical behavior we embrace that is part of our pillars and our leadership structure, and the behavior and culture we expect you to follow and embrace and coach and mentor. And if you don't, guess what? There needs to be consequences, whatever those might be.
Yes.
And if you're not doing that today,
Yes.
because there's a question about sustainability in the chat, you're not serious about it. How many companies, how many websites have mission and vision and values that have recycling and sustainability? And you peel back the layers and you take data and you turn it to information, and they really ain't doing anything, right? It's just a nice on the facing of the website. You have to be serious about it and empower that young generation to break the rules, break the glass, bring you ideas and say,
Yes.
if we did this, this is better for the community. This is better for the environment. This makes sense.
Exactly, Mike. And I love this when it comes to ethics, you need to be black and white. No, and you need to take actions, and people are being held accountable, regardless they are the chair of the company or they are the CEOs. And we've seen 2 CEOs being changed within a matter of years, 2 years at Nestle. It was in the news. So we have examples of bad leadership, of unethical leadership and scandals. So I think because time flies quickly, this is a masterclass. And we have another question from Amanda McGowan. Thank you so much. We are running out of time. It's a beautiful, very generous discussion. And I would like to thank you, Mike, Patrick, and Vlad. But before we close the show, I would like very concisely, very quick, one closing thought for the audience to take away. Patrick.
Okay, my takeaway is actually addressing Amanda's question. So you're very lucky on this one. Give emerging leaders a real problem, real data, and real responsibility. And that ultimately will drive supply chains to build trust, move faster, and compound value.
Thank you, Patrick. Vlad, your closing thought.
What I would say, if we mentor talent to think critically and and use technology intelligently and make ethical decisions, we're not just building a better supply chain, but we're just building the great leaders of the future.
Thank you, Vlad. And Mike, your closing thought?
Clear vision, empower those young leaders, to Amanda's question, to make the right choices, and let them learn by mistakes, and let them break the glass. Let them move boundaries. Let's push the limits on how we approach supply chain today.
This is a masterclass on leadership, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. We have a winner, Amanda McGowan. Thank you so much for asking this question. You won our famous Supply Chain Talk mug, which will be couriered by my colleagues. Please dial in next week. I have the privilege also to host another beautiful episode on a topic which is how goods movements insights can deliver competitive advantage. We have somebody from Amazon, so please, please, please dial in and engage with us. To you, Mike, thank you. Patrick, thank you. Vlad, thank you. And hope to see you again on our show. Bye-bye and lead from the heart. Bye.